Probably the most popular video on my channel right now is my review of these two Starlink Mini batteries. The one is by Ravion, and this one right here is from PeakDo. It's the LinkPower 1. If you haven't seen that, the too long didn't read is I liked this one more from PeakDo. Even though it doesn't have as much runtime battery power, I felt it had better features overall. And about 2 months ago, PeakDo did reach out to me directly asking if I would like to test their new LinkPower 2, and it arrived a few weeks ago. So unlike the previous video, now I actually have an affiliation. I've had communication with PeakDo. Now, they're not paying me so much, but they did give me this for free. I asked them directly, am I required to say anything? And they're not influencing the script for this video at all. Not that I have much of a script, but they basically just gave me guidelines saying, please make sure you put this name, this wording in the title of the video, which actually makes sense because my previous video I mentioned, I called it PeakDo. That's actually the name of the company. I should have said LinkPower. So they just want to make sure I got the product name correct in the title, which is, in my opinion, more than fair. As you can see, they haven't changed anything with the physical design, which is good. I mean, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. I had no issues at all with the design. I really appreciate how compact it is. The first enhancement is runtime, the battery life. Now, the LinkPower 1 boasted about 4 hours, and in my use cases, I'd say that's reasonably accurate. Probably the lowest it ran for was a little over 3 hours, like 3 hours, 15 minutes. It was a lot of streaming, live streaming video. The new LinkPower 2 is 5 hours. And I have to say, they're accurate on that. I was getting actually a little over 5 hours. Pretty impressive. When I had multiple devices running off the Starlink Mini to kind of stress test it, I think all of us are streaming video. It was more like 4 hours, 5 minutes, it seemed like, when the power to the Starlink Mini kicked off and HBO stopped streaming and had to kick over to the other Wi-Fi on my television. But in general, yes, this is about 1 more hour of power, which is great. They managed to figure that out and not really change the physical dimension. What you will notice is hand in hand, when I do this, I can feel a little bit of a weight difference, just a little bit though. But when you just have this with the dish and you're just putting it in your backpack and wearing it, you won't notice the extra weight. It's only a handful of grams. Truthfully, it hardly makes a dent and it's not even worth paying attention to. The next enhancement is heat sinks. Now, I never really had an issue with the LinkPower 1 overheating. A few times that I picked it up when it was running for a while, it was no warmer than the Starlink Mini itself. In the tests I've done so far, I've noticed it's not really that warm to the touch. Now, to be fair, it's still winter. Summer is coming here in the valley, and I'll test it out more then, and I do anticipate it will get warmer. And that's not saying anything negative about the device. That's just how it is with power banks when you're in the heat, especially when it gets triple digits. Now, the LinkPower 1 had 3 of these little 1/4-inch female threaded mounts. They did away with that on the LinkPower 2. They only have the one for a tripod. That's actually fine by me. In my previous video, I actually showed you how I took some little screw-on magnets and applied them to the corners. I was like, hey, you could put on these magnets and they could, stick to your vehicle. I only used that once, to be completely honest. So I'm not going to miss the lack of 1/4-inch threading. I think it's fine as long as you have one for the tripod, which is how I usually mount this battery. And I think one of the reasons they got rid of the 1/4-inch threading in the corners was to make room for this right here. This is the magnetic charging adapter, which I will get to in a little bit. If you watched the previous video, you might remember me talking about how I applied these no-slip pads to the bottom of the Ravion and the LinkPower 1. Now, on the LinkPower 2, because of the heat sink, I didn't want to overlap the heat sinks. I want the heat sinks to do their job, but also do their job. If it's laying down, right, it's going to need a little bit of room to breathe. So you need something. So I didn't go with the bigger no-slip pads. I actually got some little of those cabinet bumpers right here. They're really small, probably hard to see, and put them on the four corners so they're not overlapping the heatsink, but they will give a little bit of breathing room for the heatsink to work. One feature I really loved of the LinkPower 1 was the fact they had a USB-C port for charging. I didn't like the barrel port only on the Ravion. Plus, this is a bi-directional USB-C port, so you can use it to charge your devices like your phone. Now, they kept that on the LinkPower 2, but they added to it. They actually added a barrel port as well. So if you want to reuse the cabling from your Starlink Mini, you can. Now, an issue I would have had was that if you were using either of these ports, you would leave the one that's unused exposed to any kind of contamination, dust, water. But they thought of that, right? I touched on it earlier. Now we're going to revisit the magnetic charging adapter right here. This is brilliant. I didn't know I wanted this until I saw it. Now the adapter cable is right here. It's a pretty strong magnet. There, holds on. Now it won't hold the weight of the battery, as you can see, but it's enough to hold a cable. And what I also liked about this, when I was testing this in my backyard, I have some oversized puppies for dogs, and they were out chasing each other in the backyard, and they tripped over the cable. Now, in any other circumstance, that probably would have taken my tripod down, and then I would have been upset. In this case, it just pulled loose. So originally, I just liked the idea of not leaving these ports exposed. But then I realized this is also a good safety mechanism to keep your dish from getting pulled over. So I really like this. The other end is for the barrel port. So again, you can reuse the cable that comes with your Starlink Mini. I dig this. I really do. This was some thinking. I'm not sure who requested it or who thought of it, but thank you. I really do like this. So if you caught the last video, you probably caught my rant about the PIN code for the Bluetooth app. Now, if you didn't see that, in short, all of the LinkPower 1s share the same PIN code, 020555. So if someone else was nearby and they had the app, they could connect to my battery and shut it down. Not cool. The likelihood, pretty small. Still, that annoyed me. On the LinkPower 2, they have a new feature that is a dynamically generated code that will appear on the screen when you go to connect to it. Now, you can switch back to static code if you want. If you triple press the power button, it will switch over to static code mode, 020555. Not sure why you want to use that. Otherwise, if I go to connect right now, okay, it's on. So you see it just gave me a code, 785317. So I'm going to go 785317. Hit pair. And it always tells me disconnected for some reason the first time. So if I hit reconnect again, then it connects. And now we're in the app. That's just one little glitch I've noticed. I recreated this on my computer, my phone, and the iPad. You put in the code, it disconnects, but then you just reconnect to it, and then you're in. Just in case you're thinking, haha, I got your code. No, that code will change each time. So I've connected this to my computer and my phone. It's been a different code each time. I like that. I really do. Good job. Way to solve what I thought was maybe not a huge issue. I think the likelihood of having your battery hacked over a Bluetooth app is pretty low, but I still had issues with it. So I actually appreciate them addressing that. The app is, well, it is what it is. Same thing. You can go in here, you can turn off ports. You can come over here and go to expert mode. Now, just like with the LinkPower 1, I never really had a use for this. If you did watch that video, there was another rant about this OTA mode. This is for doing firmware updates. Because I turned this on, it bricked my LinkPower 1, and I went through a big fiasco fixing it. PeakDo did work with me over email. That's how they had my email, actually, because they were able to reach out to me directly with my personal email. I'm not going to worry about this, to be completely honest, as far as updating firmware. There were no updates to LinkPower 1 that I know of, and they said they improved OTA mode. Honestly, I didn't test it. I've got a little bit of PTSD from what happened last time. But despite me not wanting to touch OTA mode ever again, I do appreciate they did something about the pin code. Bravo, everyone. Good job over there. Thanks for listening. Is the LinkPower 2 an upgrade, in my honest opinion? Yes, I really do think it is, and not just because they gave it to me for free. I would have paid for this. I would have, because I've gotten a lot of use on my LinkPower 1. In fact, I have not used the Ravion since my last review video. I haven't. I always carry this one, and now I will always be using the LinkPower 2 with the LinkPower 1 as a backup. So I have no use for the Ravion anymore. I really do like it. I think they did a good job with this. If you're looking to save approximately $60 US at the time that this video was recorded, they still have the LinkPower 1 for sale on their website. It is cheaper, but I suspect it's only going to be there until they clear the stock out of their warehouse. So based on when you get around to seeing this video, this may or may not be available. But since I do have your attention real quick, I do want to address a question someone had about pass-through charging with the USB-C port. Specifically, if you were using a power bank like this one, this is from Ugreen. This is what I was using for my Starlink Mini before I got the LinkPower 1, actually, which is right over there. And the question was, if you're using a USB-C port that's also the charging port for the power bank, will that charge the LinkPower 1? In this case, I have the LinkPower 2. Same thing. The short answer is no, you don't want to do that. So I'm going to plug in the USB-C right now. There's two on this. Now, this one right here is the one that I used to use to power the Starlink Mini, because it put out enough power. The other port was a little bit weaker, but it's also the charging port. So I'm going to plug into the charging port, and then I'm going to plug into the USB-C. Okay, so I'll try to zoom in. If you look closely, you'll see that the orange at the top means that there's power going out the USB-C. So right now, I'm actually charging my power bank. If I switch it over to the other USB-C, okay, now you see the text is green for the USB-C port, indicating it is actually receiving a charge. So this is a general rule of thumb. I have other devices that do bi-directional USB-C. And my experience is every time if you try to plug into the charging port of your power bank, you're going to be pulling power out of that device. And it's no different with this. So hope that answers a question at least one of you I know had out there. So I think I covered all the important talking points of this video. Yeah, the last thing I need to test thoroughly is heat during pass-through charging. As I said earlier, wasn't an issue. And I did do pass-through charging earlier. And when I touched the battery, it wasn't any warmer than the Starlink Mini. In fact, I think the Starlink Mini was actually warmer than the battery itself. But when summer hits here in the valley, I'll have plenty of heat and sun to work with, that's for sure. And last but not least, I want to thank PeakDo, not just for sending me the device for testing, but for listening to the critique and the feedback and making some worthwhile changes to your products. That does speak volumes to consumers like me. Well, that is all I have for this video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.